The Iron World Cup is back, and this week is even more exciting because I've just taken delivery of a brand new GC quad. So let's go and see what the data is on our latest two game improvement head-to-head clubs. Today I'm putting the Titleist T300 up against the Honma GS. Now it's going to be really interesting to see what the results are here, because the Titleist T300 performed really well, but I haven't tested it for quite a while now, whereas the Honma I've tested recently and it put up some really good numbers. Both of these are designed to be really long irons, so it's going to be really interesting to see which one actually ends up being the longest, and also if that extra distance affects the dispersion. Since I haven't hit it for a while, I think I'm going to start with the Titleist. So my last set of irons were Titleist T100s, and I really liked them. And I have to say, when you put these down over the ball, they're very similar in terms of the shaping and styling, so that is very familiar to me and I do really like that. Obviously the top line is a little bit thicker and the blade length's longer, but overall I really like the shaping of these. I caught that slightly thin, but it's still flown a pretty decent distance. Struck that a little bit better and my distance has gone up 6 yards straight away. The data on those last two shots was ridiculously consistent. I would say so far there doesn't really seem to be a massive difference in distance between my good strike and my bad strike, which it kind of is a bit frustrating because you feel like when you strike it good it should go a bit further, but then I guess in terms of consistency it probably would help. In terms of dispersion, they seem to be going pretty straight so far though. I felt like I struck that really nicely and it doesn't seem to have flown at all. Okay, so I've hit my 10 shots now, and I'd say the data probably isn't really exactly what I was expecting. The good things were in terms of height, it was launched at a really good height, and it was also coming down at a really nice steep descent angle. So if you're someone who struggles to get extra height on your shots or needs more stopping power coming to the greens, these are definitely going to help with that. I was pretty happy with the spin numbers here, and also they were really consistent, which was really good to see. Now, in terms of distance, these averaged at 151 yards. Which is fine, that's probably what I would expect with my 7-iron, but I thought these would go a little bit further than that. My best shot was up at 156 and my shortest shot was down at 148, so not a massive difference from front to back, which is definitely good to see, but I just thought these were going to be a little more powerful than what we saw here. Having said that, with a slightly thicker club, I do sometimes get a little bit of a matty strikes, so that could have affected the distance a little bit. But let's switch over to the Honma now and see what the differences are. So this has a shorter blade length than what we saw in the Titleist, so the head does look a bit more compact in that sense. However, the top line is quite a bit thicker. Personally for me, I did prefer the thinner top line and the longer blade length in the Titleist. Pretty similar in terms of distance so far there. I would say this felt a little bit nicer though. Okay, so that was my best strike yet, and the distance has jumped up quite a lot. I hit that an extra 12 yards compared to my first shot, which is obviously quite a big difference. Looking at the numbers so far, this could definitely get interesting because some of them are almost exactly the same as what we saw with the Titleist. Oh, felt like I peeled that. It's only flew 158. I do feel like the strikes have been a little bit more consistent with this so far. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's just because the heads are a little bit more compact. Right, that's all 10 shots. Let's take a look at the numbers. Okay, that data was remarkably similar. In terms of ball speed and distance, there was 1 mile an hour difference in ball speed, with the Honma being slightly faster, which led to 3 extra yards in terms of distance. So the Honma was carrying 154 compared to 151 with the Titleist, which really isn't very much at all. Again, the spin numbers were very similar. There was only 300 RPM difference between the two. They were both in the 4000s, which might seem low for a 7-iron, but that is typically what you're going to get in a game improvement iron. So with the Titleist, you were getting 300 more RPM of spin, and this was feeding back into the other numbers as well, because you got a slightly higher launch and also a steeper descent angle. So if you're someone who really needs more height on your shots and more stopping power, the Titleist is going to help you get that over the Honma. Now, in terms of launch direction and dispersion, this was definitely very interesting. The Honma was definitely more draw bias, and I had a lot more shots missing to the left, and also they were starting a degree more to the left in terms of start line. Now for me, left is my bad shot, so it's not necessarily where I'd want to see all my shots going. Then when we look at the Titleist, it was a lot more neutral down the target line, which is typically what I prefer to see. It doesn't mean that it has a skew one way. However, I guess if you're someone who hits a slice or a fade and you're really wanting to kind of move away from that, the Honma might help you out. So when we're looking at the overall dispersion and how much offline these were travelling, on average the Titleist was only 1 yard off the centre, which is pretty good. In comparison, the Honma was then 7 yards offline, and I would say that is quite a big difference. Overall, there's not really a lot to split these two, and if we move away from the numbers, I probably preferred the visual look of the Titleist over the ball. However, I preferred the feel with the Honma. It just felt a little bit more solid. But who's going to be the winner? I think when we look at game improvement clubs, in general, a really big factor here is getting the right height on the shots and getting that stopping power, and it's something that a higher handicap can really struggle with. So for me, from that point of view, the Titleist definitely performed the best in that category, so I think it has to be the winner here. Wow, that was close, wasn't it? If you have any questions about either of these models or any of the irons that have been in the game improvement series so far, feel free to put them in the comments below or drop me a line on Twitter or Instagram. We'll be back with the semi-finals of the Iron World Cup shortly, so keep your eyes on our channel for more. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications too. And if you're after more golf content, head over to the National Club Golfer social media channels for more.